Have you ever felt a shiver down your spine? A whisper of a secret you were never meant to hear? What if that secret wasn't just about a hidden past, but about a fortune, a betrayal, and the unraveling of everything you thought you knew about your own family? Today I'm going to tell you a story that will challenge your perceptions, a story of an inheritance that was not what it seemed, and the shocking truth that lay buried beneath years of silence. This isn't just a tale, it's a journey into the heart of a family's darkest secrets. If you're ready to uncover the truth, stay with me. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If this story resonates with you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Let's begin. It all began with a letter, an official-looking envelope that arrived on a crisp autumn morning. It bore the crest of a prominent law firm, and inside a summons, the reading of my grandmother Eleanor's will. Eleanor, a woman of quiet dignity and immense fortitude, had passed away peacefully in her sleep at the ripe old age of 92. We mourned her deeply, but there was also a sense of anticipation. Eleanor was known to be resourceful. She had always hinted at a legacy, not just of love, but of something more tangible. My two siblings, my older brother Arthur and younger sister Clara, gathered with me in the solemn oak-paneled office of Mr. Davies, the family attorney. Arthur, ever the pragmatist, was already mentally calculating figures. Clara, sentimental and easily moved, dabbed at her eyes, genuinely heartbroken. And I was a mixture of both, a touch of hope for a comfortable future, and a profound sadness for the woman who had filled so many of our childhood memories with warmth and wisdom. Mr. Davies cleared his throat, adjusting his spectacles. Good morning, everyone. As you know, we are here today to execute the last will and testament of Eleanor Vance. His voice was calm, measured, the voice of someone accustomed to delivering life-altering news. He proceeded to read the usual preamble, bequests to charities, a few cherished heirlooms distributed amongst distant relatives. Then he paused, his gaze sweeping over the three of us. And now for the principal beneficiaries. The air in the room grew thick with unspoken expectations. We all assumed Eleanor's substantial estate, which included her magnificent Victorian house and a portfolio of investments, would be divided equally amongst us. It was the sensible, fair thing to do. Eleanor had always been fair. But as Mr. Davies continued, a chill started to creep in. To my grandson, Michael, he began, referring to me, I leave my collection of antique books, along with a monthly stipend for the upkeep of the family library, conditional on his commitment to maintaining its historical integrity. A strange bequest, I thought, but not entirely unexpected given my love for literature. To my granddaughter Clara, he continued, I bequeath my jewelry collection, excluding the diamond engagement ring, and a trust fund to support her artistic endeavors, provided she continues to pursue her passion without compromise. Clara's eyes widened, a tear of joy forming. This was perfectly Eleanor, always encouraging Clara's artistic spirit. Then came Arthur's turn. And to my grandson, Arthur, Mr. Davies' voice took on a slightly more formal tone. I leave my shares in Vance Industries and the entirety of the remainder of my liquid assets under one crucial condition. Arthur, who had been trying to maintain an air of nonchalance, suddenly sat up straighter. This was it, the big reveal. The condition, Mr. Davies articulated slowly, is that the family home, Blackwood Manor, is to be held in trust, not to be sold or altered in any significant way, until such a time as my chosen executor deems it appropriate, or until a specific hidden clause is met. A collective gasp, not just from us, but from the other solicitor present. Blackwood Manor, the sprawling ancestral home that had been in our family for generations, was not to be inherited directly, and a hidden clause? What on earth did that mean? Confusion rippled through the room. Arthur, usually composed, blurted out, A hidden clause? What kind of condition is that, Mr. Davies? Who is this chosen executor? Mr. Davies remained unruffled. Eleanor was meticulous, Arthur. She foresaw many things. The executor in this case is not one of you. It is Eleanor's longtime housekeeper, Mrs. Agnes Periwinkle. The announcement landed like a bombshell. Mrs. Periwinkle, Agnes, who had served Eleanor faithfully for over 50 years, a woman as much a part of the house as the ancient floorboards, was now in control of Blackwood Manor. She was kind, gentle, but hardly a shrewd businesswoman. Arthur's face flushed crimson. This is preposterous. Agnes, with all due respect, she's a housekeeper. Precisely, Mr. Davies countered, his voice firm, and Eleanor trusted her implicitly. The will explicitly states that Mrs. Periwinkle is to reside at Blackwood Manor, overseeing its maintenance and ensuring the terms of the trust are upheld. She has been granted full authority to manage the estate, with the exception of selling the property or making major structural changes until that hidden clause is revealed and met. My mind raced. What could Eleanor have been thinking? Why such an elaborate arrangement? It felt less like a will and more like a puzzle, a final cryptic message from a woman who had always been full of surprises. This was certainly not the simple inheritance we had anticipated. We left the solicitor's office in a daze. Arthur was fuming, already muttering about legal challenges. Clara, ever the empath, felt a pang of sympathy for Mrs. Periwinkle, who would now be thrust into this unexpected role. I, however, felt a strange sense of intrigue. Eleanor never did anything without a reason. There had to be more to this than met the eye. The next day we drove out to Blackwood Manor. It stood as it always had, majestic and a little melancholic under the gray sky. The gardens, once meticulously kept, were showing signs of neglect, a silent testament to Eleanor's declining health. Mrs. Periwinkle greeted us at the door, her usually placid face etched with a mix of apprehension and quiet determination. She was in her late 70s, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, her hands clasped in front of her apron. "Good morning, children," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Please come in." As we stepped into the familiar grand hall, the silence felt heavier than usual. Arthur immediately launched into a barrage of questions. "Agnes, what exactly did Grandma tell you about this hidden clause? What are you supposed to do?" Agnes sighed, leading us into the drawing room, where a pot of tea and her famous shortbread awaited. She looked at us, her gaze surprisingly steady. "Eleanor confided in me over many years. She spoke of a secret, a family secret that needed to be uncovered. The hidden clause, it pertains to an object of great significance, hidden somewhere within these walls. Until it is found and its true meaning understood, Blackwood Manor remains in trust under my care." My jaw dropped. An object? A secret? This was turning into something out of an adventure novel, not a quiet inheritance. And Agnes, dear Agnes, was now the guardian of a mystery. Over the next few weeks, Blackwood Manor became a strange mix of mourning and treasure hunt. Arthur, despite his initial protests, was now obsessed with finding this object. He believed it held the key to selling the house and accessing what he considered his inheritance. Clara more subtly began to explore, drawn by the romantic notion of a hidden family secret. I, on the other hand, gravitated toward the library, my designated inheritance. It was there, amongst the dusty tomes and forgotten manuscripts, that I stumbled upon the first clue. While cataloging some of Eleanor's personal effects in a hidden compartment behind a false bookshelf, I found it, a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age. It wasn't just any journal, it was Eleanor's, dating back to her younger years long before we were born. And I was caught in the middle. Eleanor had entrusted us with this. She wanted the truth to come out, but also with caution. Was it our place to unleash such a devastating blow on a powerful family, even if their legacy was built on lies? The documents contain information that could ruin careers, tarnish reputations, and shake the very foundations of our town. The moral dilemma was immense. We spent days poring over the documents, each discovery deepening the complexity of the situation. The evidence was irrefutable, but the implications, they were staggering. As we delved deeper into the Star of the East, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Small things. A car parked suspiciously down the lane, a fleeting shadow at a window, a strange phone call with no one on the other end. It felt like the Montgomerys, even after all these years, still cast a long, dark shadow. Arthur, in his eagerness to capitalize on the discovery, had made a few discreet inquiries in town, asking about the old Montgomery family history. It was enough to pique curiosity and perhaps to raise alarms. One evening, as I was alone in the library, a sudden power outage plunged the entire manor into darkness. My heart pounded. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, its beam cutting through the inky blackness. A floorboard creaked upstairs. I froze, listening. It wasn't Agnes. She was in her room downstairs. It wasn't Arthur or Clara. They were out. I crept toward the sound, my hand gripping a heavy brass letter opener from Eleanor's desk. The creaking stopped. Silence, oppressive and complete. Then a faint click from the cellar. My blood ran cold. The secret vault. Someone was trying to get in. I descended the creaky cellar stairs, each step a crescendo of fear. The faint glow of a flashlight emanated from the area of the false bookshelf. My breath hitched. Someone was down there, and they knew where the vault was. How? Had Eleanor's secret been less secret than she thought? Or had one of us inadvertently led them here? I had to act. Summoning every ounce of courage, I burst around the corner, my flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. There in front of the open vault was a figure, tall, silhouetted against the weak light, their back to me. They were rifling through the chest, the precious documents being handled carelessly. "Hey! What do you think you're doing?" My voice, though trembling slightly, echoed with unexpected force. The figure spun around, startled. My flashlight beam landed squarely on their face. My blood ran cold. It wasn't a stranger. It was Arthur. "Arthur?" I gasped, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. "What in God's name are you doing down here? You're stealing the documents?" His face was a mixture of surprise, defiance, and a fleeting glimpse of shame. "Stealing? Don't be ridiculous, Michael. I'm just looking for something specific, something that can guarantee us a bigger payout. We can't trust the Montgomerys to be reasonable. We need leverage." "Leverage?" I retorted, my anger overriding my shock. "You were going to take these and negotiate behind our backs, weren't you? You were going to sell Eleanor's legacy, her desire for justice, for your own greed." He glared at me, his eyes hard. "And what, Michael? You want to be a martyr? Go public and risk everything? We have a golden opportunity here. These documents are worth millions to the Montgomerys to keep quiet. And you want to play noble?" The argument escalated, whispers turning into heated exchanges. He saw only profit. I saw Eleanor's trust, her wish for justice, and the moral quandary that Clara and I had been wrestling with. This wasn't just about the Montgomerys anymore. It was about Arthur's betrayal, his willingness to compromise everything for personal gain. The family was fracturing from within, just as Eleanor had perhaps feared. Just as our argument reached its fever pitch, a sudden, sharp rap echoed from the cellar door. 3 authoritative knocks. We both froze, our conflict momentarily forgotten. "Who's that?" Arthur whispered, his bravado gone, replaced by a nervous edge. Agnes's voice, surprisingly calm but firm, called from above. "Mr. Michael, Mr. Arthur, you have visitors." "From the Montgomery family. They insist it's urgent." My stomach lurched. How did they know? Had Arthur's inquiries been more obvious than he thought? Or had they been watching us all along, waiting for the opportune moment? We exchanged a frantic glance. The open vault, the scattered documents, we couldn't let them see this. "Quickly, Arthur, help me put these back," I urged, shoving the papers back into the chest. He, too, realized the gravity of the situation and began to assist, albeit reluctantly. We managed to close the vault and secure the false bookshelf just as Agnes led 3 impeccably dressed individuals into the library, directly above us. Their voices, low and serious, drifted down to the cellar. The patriarch, Mr. Harrison Montgomery, a man in his late 60s with an air of cold authority, spoke first. "Mrs. Periwinkle, we understand the Vance family has recently come into possession of certain historical items pertaining to our family. We wish to discuss their provenance and their implications." My heart pounded. They knew. They weren't just guessing. They had specific information. This wasn't a casual visit. It was an interrogation. And we, trapped in the cellar, holding their family's deepest, darkest secrets, were completely exposed. The stakes had just been raised to an unimaginable level. We were no longer just grappling with a moral dilemma. We were in a direct confrontation with a powerful force that had guarded its secrets for decades. Upstairs, the interrogation continued. We could hear the low murmur of voices, Harrison Montgomery's smooth, menacing tones, occasionally punctuated by Agnes's steadfast, unwavering responses. She was protecting us, buying us time, but for how long? Arthur, now pale and sweating, looked at me. What do we do, Michael? We can't let them take these documents. They'll destroy them, and Eleanor's wishes will be for nothing. His self-interest had momentarily given way to a shared sense of urgency. Just then, Clara, who had been out running errands, arrived back at the manor. Hearing the intense conversation in the library and sensing the danger, she quickly made her way to the cellar. Her eyes widened in alarm when she saw us, and then the concealed vault. "What's going on?" she whispered, her face etched with fear. I quickly explained the situation, the Montgomerys upstairs, our discovery, and Arthur's near betrayal. Clara surprisingly didn't panic. Instead, her artistic mind, accustomed to seeing patterns and solutions, sparked. "Wait a minute," she said, her voice gaining a strange conviction. "Eleanor mentioned Star of the East. She also loved astronomy, and her favorite constellation was Orion. There's a star in Orion known as Betelgeuse, the red giant, and another, Rigel, the blue giant. What if the key to understanding the true meaning of the Star of the East isn't just the documents themselves, but something else? A code within a code?" My mind raced. Eleanor was brilliant at puzzles. Could Clara be right? "What are you thinking, Clara?" "Eleanor always said the truth reveals itself to those who look beyond the obvious," Clara mused. "She had a small, antique globe in her study, remember? She was always fascinated by ancient maps." Suddenly, a new hope surged through me. Eleanor's true hidden clause wasn't just finding the documents. It was understanding their deeper significance and perhaps finding an additional piece of evidence that made their exposure unavoidable, unquestionable, and most importantly, safe to reveal. Clara, with her unique perspective, had just unlocked a new layer of Eleanor's grand design. We had to find that globe, and quickly we crept upstairs, avoiding the library, and made our way to Eleanor's old study. The room was just as she had left it, meticulously organized, filled with the scent of old paper and dried flowers. In the corner, on an ornate stand, sat the antique globe Clara had mentioned. It was old, its varnish cracked, the maps depicting a world long past. "Okay, Clara," I urged. "What are we looking for?" Clara's fingers traced the faded lines of the continents. Eleanor loved to play games with us. She would tell us stories, and sometimes she'd hide little clues in the details. She was obsessed with the concept of a true north, a moral compass. Arthur, surprisingly, was now fully invested, his earlier greed momentarily forgotten in the face of this thrilling chase. "So, a geographical clue? Like a secret location marked on the globe?" Clara shook her head. "More subtle. Eleanor had a specific way of marking things. Look at the stars. See these tiny pinpricks? She used to map constellations on here, not just for fun, but to hide notes. Indeed, scattered across the celestial sphere of the globe were tiny, almost imperceptible pinpricks. Clara, with her artist's eye, quickly identified a pattern. "It's a code," she declared, her eyes shining with excitement. "She's used specific constellations to spell something out. Orion, Lyra, Scorpius. It's an acrostic. She's spelling out a word or a phrase." Working quickly, with the Montgomerys' voices a constant, ominous hum from the library, we deciphered the hidden message. It was a single word spelled out by the initial letters of specific obscure stars within constellations. WITNESS. "Witness?" Arthur questioned, puzzled. "What does that mean?" "It means," I interjected, a sudden realization dawning on me, "that there's another level to this. The documents are evidence, But what if Eleanor knew that just documents might not be enough? What if there's an actual witness to these events? Someone still alive, whose testimony would be irrefutable? Agnes, who had silently joined us, her face pale, nodded slowly. Eleanor mentioned a man, a young stable boy at the Montgomery estate back then. He saw things, heard things. He was silenced, given a small sum, and sent away. Eleanor always wondered what became of him. She called him the Quiet Keeper. She hoped he would one day be found. The hidden clause wasn't just about the documents. It was about finding the witness. And the mention of deception in Eleanor's journal wasn't just about hiding the documents, but perhaps about guarding this witness's identity, ensuring their safety until the time was right. This was Eleanor's ultimate safeguard, and we had to find this quiet keeper before the Montgomerys, who were now just rooms away, could silence him forever. With the Montgomerys upstairs and the clock ticking, we had to act fast. Agnes provided what little information she had about the quiet keeper, a first name, Samuel, and a vague recollection of him being from a neighboring village. It wasn't much, but it was a lead. Clara, ever the strategist, suggested, "We can't go through the front door. They're watching. We need a diversion." Arthur surprisingly stepped up. "I'll create one. I'll go out the back, make a ruckus near the old shed. They'll send someone to investigate. That'll buy you time to slip out and find Samuel." His desire for personal gain had, for the moment, been eclipsed by the thrill of the chase and a newfound sense of family loyalty. Agnes, with remarkable fortitude, went back to the library, continuing her steadfast denials and cleverly redirecting the Montgomerys' questions. She was a silent, unyielding shield. While Arthur executed his noisy diversion, Clara and I, armed with the journal and the partial information about Samuel, slipped out a side door, through the overgrown gardens, and into the moonlit night. We had to find Samuel. His testimony, combined with the Star of the East documents, would be the irrefutable truth Eleanor had always sought. It was a perilous journey, a race against time, with the Montgomerys' vast network of influence undoubtedly already activated. We knew our lives and the future of Blackwood Manor hinged on finding the quiet keeper. Eleanor had set up the ultimate test, and we were determined to pass it, honoring her legacy and finally bringing decades of injustice to light. The fate of an entire town, in the truth of its past, rested on our shoulders. We found Samuel. After a desperate search, following faint trails and old village records, we located an elderly, reclusive man living in a small cottage on the outskirts of the neighboring town. He was frail, his memory a little hazy, but when we mentioned Eleanor Vance and the old Montgomery scandal, his eyes cleared and a profound sadness, mixed with fear, settled upon his face. He remembered everything. The illicit land deals, the threats, the payout that forced him into silence and a life of exile. He had lived with the guilt and fear for decades, believing he was the only one who knew the truth. When we showed him Eleanor's journal and explained our mission, a glimmer of hope sparked in his weary eyes. He agreed to testify, to finally tell his story. He was the witness. Back at Blackwood Manor, the confrontation with the Montgomerys reached its peak. Harrison Montgomery, growing impatient, was about to issue an ultimatum when Arthur, Clara, and I, with Samuel leaning on my arm, walked into the library. The sight of Samuel, the quiet keeper, sent a visible ripple of shock through the Montgomery delegation. Harrison Montgomery's face, usually so composed, paled. His decades-old secret was walking through the door, alive and ready to speak. The documents, combined with Samuel's first-hand testimony, were undeniable. The Montgomerys, cornered and exposed, had no choice. The truth, hidden for 60 years, finally came out. It was a scandal that rocked the town, a reckoning that reshaped its history and ultimately brought a semblance of justice to those long wronged. Blackwood Manor was saved. The hidden clause was met not by a simple discovery, but by an act of courage and collective effort. Agnes, with tears in her eyes, finally entrusted the manor to us, knowing Eleanor's ultimate wish had been fulfilled. The house, no longer just a grand old building, became a symbol of truth and resilience. The legacy of Eleanor Vance was far more profound than any of us could have imagined. She didn't just leave us an inheritance, she left us a mission, a mission to uncover the truth, to stand for what is right, and to never let fear silence justice. Arthur, chastened by his near betrayal, became a strong advocate for historical transparency. Clara used her artistic talents to document the stories of the wronged, ensuring their voices were never again forgotten. And I continued to guard Eleanor's library, now a repository not just of books, but of untold histories waiting to be discovered. Blackwood Manor, once a house of secrets, became a beacon of honesty. The Montgomery name, stripped of its false glory, was a stark reminder that even the most powerful legacies can crumble when built on deceit. And our family, fractured by secrets, was finally reunited, stronger and more united by the shared experience of uncovering the truth. This story teaches us that true inheritance isn't just about material wealth. It's about the values passed down through generations, the courage to seek justice, and the enduring power of truth. What do you think about Eleanor's elaborate plan? Would you have risked everything to expose such a powerful family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this journey into a hidden family secret, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating true stories and mysteries. Hit that notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.